Hello and welcome. Welcome to another tutorial. This is Darude's Sandstorm next to you. It's kind of a mix of both. Okay, every time I start a track, I usually put in a reference track that I'm sort of trying to create something similar to. So I will press R and it will switch to the solid track, and it will obviously automatically unmute every other track. And by default, that track is going to be muted. So I've just set it up like that. You can set it up however. I'm sure there's a better way to do it, but this just works for me. All right, let's look at it. As always, track is divided in mellows and drums. With mellows, there's the stabs created in Spire, and this is what it sounds like by itself. This is like a mix between Next to You and Sandstorm. How the stabs come in Sandstorm in the morning at the very start. And then this is the processing. I've cut out the lows. I've reduced the width a little bit. Put an OTT, and the compression is basically just, I think, side chaining. And then reverb, Valhalla reverb, which is also getting sidechained to itself, so it's cutting itself, which makes the ducking effect. And this whole process sort of gets repeated again and again. Alright, with pads, pads are fairly simple. I've also started using Silent 1 a lot. Back again, I just hadn't used that for a long time, but to achieve 2000 trance sound, this is really great. I'm using Anjuna pads, and this is what it sounds like. It's fairly simple, and again, this is something that keeps repeating back to back. Fairly simple processing again, no need for lower end, so I've cut that out. It's side chained, and then again, I've obviously unwidened the sound instead, because I didn't want to go too wide. And then later on, it comes out to this high string sound, which is a very strong reminiscent of the classic Eurodance feeling. That's and I do this in a lot of my tracks. It's just very subtle, but it's there in the background. And then again, of course, there's the Sandstorm lead. It's a very simple lead, and I haven't created the lead itself in the piano roll. I've achieved that by using KHS Transgate. Without it, it's just a simple line. And let's look at how I've achieved the sound. I used a secret bass. I can't remember when I created this, but basically it's just two main oscillators. So oscillator 1 sounds like this by itself. And it's oscillator just with a pulse sound, and with the LFO, the pitch is being modulated. And if I turn it down, it sounds like this. You can hear how granulated it is, and that's important to achieve the texture to it. And then the other one is this oscillator. And that's down tuned to -7 to achieve like the 7th sort of sound. And it's 2 octaves down. Together it sounds like this. Some of the simple processing, again, cutting out the lows, OTT for processing, compression, sidechain. I'm using KHS Reverb because it has I think it has a duck built in. Sorry, no, this doesn't have the duck built in. The delay does, which I really like. I like plugins that have the ducking built in, especially for reverb and for delay. Now for the bass lines. So if you listen to Next to You, the bass line is a lot more, slightly more complicated, whereas with Sandstorm, it's a little bit more simpler. It's just offbeat. So I wanted to use this because I can sort of, offbeat bass line is like fairly simple to do. But this one, it gets divided into two, like the lows and the highs. And then this is what the low sounds like by itself. And again, I've used Silent 1 for the low ends. I've carved out a little bit to boost the lows and a little bit in the mid, achieving some strong attack and sustain using KHS Transient Shaper, and then OTT for more compression. And this is what the bassline highs sound like. Again, it's like a very strong driving trance sort of sound. And this covers the higher side of the bass line, and I've cut down all the lows, and it's got a little bit of delay. I think it has delay built in, but for some reason I felt like I needed to add it. And together it sounds like this. And just keeps repeating. Alright, now for the drums. Together, all of the drums sound like this. Let's break it down. Kicks. Very crunchy sound. The whole bus is turned down 10 decibels. Utility, because I think I was adding a lot of gain in a bunch of the drum elements. So I've turned that down, and I've put a lot of makeup in the glue compressor, and I've turned it down to 50, which is parallel compression. That sort of, glues in the whole drum track. And without it, it sounds like this. And with it, it's a very subtle difference, but yeah, it's important. The kick gets pronounced a bit more without it, and we don't want the kick to sort of overpower everything else. For the most part, it does overpower, but not to that extent. All right, let's break down the loops. All right, so I've created a top loop drum track. I've got layered 2 kicks, so one kick sounds like this. And then the other kick sounds like this. And just hi-hat open. I've also used Transient Shaper to increase the attack, but lower down the sustain, because without it, it would sustain for longer, alongside actually pushing the sample to end shorter rather than longer. And now onto extra hats. I've also achieved widening using the align delay, which I usually do. I'm not sure if this is the right way to do it, but I just like to do it. I think because sometimes you have a completely mono sample that is hard to widen with a lot of the VSCs, but this one forces it to do that. I haven't looked into how it does that, but just time delay, basically. Just it forces it to left and right channels. And again, KHS transient, with, without. And you can see how much sustain there is, and I don't want it to sort of pull out so much. I want there to be sort of strong transient and space between the whole drum loops. And then the percussion and hi-hats. Basically the same thing, process with OTT, Transient Shaper to keep the transients and kill the sustains, and widened here using aligned delay. The percussion loop. And this is heavily sidechained using kicks. Without it, it sounds like this. because obviously we don't want this sample to overpower the whole drum. Let's put out the side chain. Let's put the side chain. Okay, and lastly, we've got the claps. Sounds like this. Again, kill the lows. And that's pretty much it. And then just a simple crash that I reversed. It has built-in reverb. And with the main, we've got -7 decibels. So there's more headroom. Some post-processing on the EQ. There's a shortcut buddy, that's just for me. Maybe I'll make a video on that one time. There's mix matcher that I was using to match the reference with the reference track. I'm still sort of getting used to that, so ignore that for now. Swiss Army meter, this is a great plugin. Pro L2 to sort of do, hold on. It's mostly to check peaks. And Uline loudness meter to make sure I'm not being extremely loud. I look like I am being extremely loud because for Spotify you need -14, but that's pretty much it, and that's the whole track. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts. Please like, share, subscribe, all of them things, and I will be making more of these videos. If you like them, please let me know your suggestions, anything that I can improve on, any other tracks that you want me to do. I do have a bunch of them lined up right now, so I may do those first and then do the ones that you want me to, but eventually I'll get there. Thanks for watching. Be seeing ya.